The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Pat Scott. Hi, Pat.
Hello there.
And Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hello, hello.
So this week we have some very interesting topics. I'm glad I have this particular panel together. I don't think you two have been on together before. It didn't have it in my notes that you have, but maybe you have.
We've been on Let's Talk, I think, before together.
I think so. Somewhere in the SQPN StarQuest family of shows, you've been on together. But I'm glad I have both of you here for this show today, because we have a couple of topics that are right in your wheelhouse, and so that's good. The first topic we have came from a listener request. You can tell how I'm old school media. A listener request who sent in this. She says, "My mom is old enough that she never used a computer or tablet. If you have an older parent living with you now, what's useful in the terms of technology? Security system, camera in the parent's bedroom to monitor them. Those life alert pendants." So we're going to talk about some of the different technologies that are available that we might want to get for elderly parents or senior parents, whether they're living with us or even more so maybe if they're living on their own, and we want to keep in touch with them or make sure that they're safe and that they're taken care of on a regular basis. Now, Pat, you work with seniors on a regular basis in your work as Mama Nerd, right? That's
right. A lot of my clients are over 70.
All right. And so you have a good handle on this. And Joanne, you've said that this is an area of interest to you as well.
I've advocated this a lot because I have friends who are a little bit older than me who have been afraid to use technology. So okay. I'm always saying, does this work for older people, and be considerate of older people? So, and now that I'm an older person myself, I have to think about it a little bit more.
So let's consider this in two areas. The first area is more like from safety perspective, and the other area is just general technology use. So from a safety perspective, a lot of people, especially if you're old enough to remember the life alert pendant, I've fallen and I can't get up. Remember those old commercials? And, poor granny's on the ground. And if she has the life alert around her neck, she can press the button and they'll come and get her. So there's basically two major ones out there, the Philips Lifeline and the classic Life Alert. Do either of you have any knowledge or experience with either of these?
I've had certain clients that have had the life alert thing, and other than forgetting to put them back on when they got out of the shower or having them on a bedstand when they didn't have it around their neck, a couple of them have actually said it helped them.
They have had to use it?
Yeah, they've had to use it.
Oh, wow,
right.
Okay. And Joanne, you have any knowledge of these?
Yeah, my mom had the Lifeline. And my cousin had it for a couple of months. My mother had it longer. My mother had a habit of putting it in her pocket instead of wearing it or leaving it in the other room. She did have to use it, I think, twice. But they were one thing that they did was they'd always check on her once a month, and it would scare the bejeebers out of her because all of a sudden it would go off and she'd be like, "Oh, who's talking to me?" But she got used to it after a while. It gave me peace of mind. Because, when they did call me, they were able to explain everything as to what was going on. So, I see the good use in them. I don't like their commercials. Every time their commercial comes on TV nowadays and the poor woman's lying there and they're, with the ominous music, I just want to hit somebody. Don't do that. Don't scare people like that.
Right. Apparently Lifeline has a new, the newer version of an app that people that they call it the Circle of Care, family and friends, who are in that circle of care, that they can monitor the status of the Lifeline system for whoever, whatever person is wearing it, so they can share notes with each other or with the person. They, because you know how it is. Sometimes you got to talk to your siblings about, oh, mom is having this situation, and keeping information flowing back and forth. And then you can also view the status of the device, and if it's offline, or needs a battery change, you can stay on top of that, which is, I think it's a nice touch. I don't think it allows monitoring, like, of hearing things, like that sort of thing. Which
sound,
I wouldn't want that for It seems like there are boundaries we have to maintain. I think, right? I mean, there's a
privacy.
Like there's a line between there's a sliding scale between privacy and safety for them, and you got to negotiate that a little bit. What do you think?
I agree. Now, one of the things that one of my clients who had a stroke and is living on her own with her mother here in town, she has installed several of the little Alexa or Google Home speakers around her apartment. And she's very shaky on her feet and has to use a wheelchair to get in, but she has to get in and out of it to go to the bathroom, etc. And so she's used these, and for her, it's anywhere she is, she can holler, call mom or call so-and-so. And so she had been talking about the other device, but she liked this so much better.
As long as she's able to speak. That's the key.
That's correct. As long as she's able to speak.
Yeah, if you have a stroke, sometimes you're not able to talk. But that's something to keep in mind. That's a good point. Like, you can have that, because I have that on my list of things to talk about. But you can have one of these voice assistants in the home for mom or dad, and they could use it to play music and that sort of stuff. But they can also be a backup communications device for calling for help. Or sometimes you can drop in, if you enable it, where you could say, hey, Aloysius, drop in on mom, and it will turn on the communication. She doesn't have to answer it. It's just active. And then, if you're worried about her and it's too far to kind of, like, you're not so worried that you want to drive over, but you just want to check on her. This is hey, mom, it's Dom. How are you doing? And, and
if she doesn't answer, then you try again. If she still doesn't answer, then you start working.
Yeah. That's a good use, I think, for that. Especially if you can get a video one, like one of the Echo shows or something, in a right place. What do you think about, like, video monitoring, like having, like an IP camera or other thing in a person's home, just to kind of keep an eye on them? Kind of like,
I'm a little edgy on that.
Yeah, I am too. I don't mind using my camera for my dog, because if she's sick, I will train it on the dog crate while we're away. But I think about, what would I have done with my mom? Now, my mom passed away in 2013. So she missed all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. I would be wary on the camera, but I think she probably would have liked the, Aloysius, because I think it's something she could have talked to, and I think she would have driven me crazy with it. But I think you gotta know your person.
Yeah.
If this person doesn't mind the video, then fine. But if it's kind of skeevy, they kind of think, oh, you're invading my privacy, then maybe the smart audio devices are the better way to go.
Right.
Well, and maybe a monitoring or a camera with a show thing in an open area like the kitchen or the living room, not in the bedroom.
Right.
And so that's a lot less invasive if they're mobile.
And it's not a camera per se. It's a voice assistant that happens to have a screen and a camera on it, and that makes it feel a little less invasive.
Well, and you were talking about the assistants not having a way in case somebody fell and couldn't speak.
Yep.
Apple Watch I have a bunch of my clients that are all getting Apple Watches for themselves and their parents,
because
they're bypassing the life alert and going to that.
The latest versions of the Apple Watch have fall detection, which is supposed to be really good. I've heard lots of stories of of it, like even just like, young people who are bike riding and get and fall off their bike and having it alert. And we've mentioned it before, but just to repeat, the way it works is if it detects a fall that's hard enough to seem like so something that could cause injury, it pops up an alert and says, "Are you okay?" And if you don't respond, you can say no, or if you don't respond, it will contact emergency services and whoever you've designated as your emergency contact, like a spouse or a child or somebody like that, or a neighbor. And that's really it's comforting for a lot of people just to know that it's there, because the worst thing I can imagine is my mom falling somewhere and where she's not noticed and no one knows she's there and she can't call for help. I mean, that's really that would be really kind of scary.
Yeah, that happened to my mother. She fell and had to drag herself to the phone at like 2 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So would I have liked my mother to have a watch? Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think the watch, not that Lifeline or Life Alert is not a good system, but it bypasses the middleman. It will make those calls all at once.
Yes.
So, I think everybody gets in line right away. And the first one, sometimes when time is of the essence, you kind of need that.
Well, and the additional thing with the watch is that if you show them how to do it, they can just push a button and hold it in. It'll do the emergency alert type thing, too. And one of the early stories was somebody trapped in a car where they couldn't get to their phone. They were upside down, but they could hit the watch.
Yep. And it gives the GPS location, too, which is key.
Exactly.
One of the things that I like, speaking of GPS location, is I have my mom's iPhone on my family account with my wife and I, and my dad's phone is on my brother's family account. But one of the things I've done is because it's on my family account, I set it up to. Well, in fact, it doesn't have to be on my family account now that I think about it. And she can set up so anyone can do Find My Friends. It's now just called Find My, which is an incomplete sentence in my world. But Find My, and so I can see her location. And once in a while, one of my brothers will call me and say, "Hey, do you know where Mom is? She's supposed to be at this place and she's not here yet, and we're a little worried that she might have got lost or something." So I'll sure, let me check it out, pull up the phone, look at she's down the street. She must be on her way. So and she wasn't answering her phone or something. She must be on her way. So she'll be there soon. That sort of thing. It gives you the peace of mind of knowing at least where the phone is. That's if she loses the phone, then that's a whole nother story, which another level of concern. And in fact, Samsung sells a tracker device. It's a GPS based tracker, so it's sort of the same thing except standalone. And I got one of those a while ago as a review unit. It's okay, except the battery runs out really quick. It has to be recharged. I think it have to be recharged every day, so she'd have to remember to plug it in. And I say she because I'm thinking of my mom, but or dad or whatever. But they'd have to plug it in every day, and it has a monthly cost to it, like a separate monthly. So it's second best, but but on the other hand, if it's something you could put in her purse, so she always have her purse, or some way that she could put it on her keys or something like that. If she loses the phone, I don't know. I don't know if that's good, better, or worse. I don't know. But having her way to kind of find their location, it could be handy, especially if they're starting to get that point where they might have forgetfulness and get confusion where they wander. And if you have a way to say a cellular Apple Watch on them, I wonder, can you do Find My with a Apple Watch?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. And several of my clients, even before the watch came out, had iPhones for them and for their spouse and themselves, and had Find My Friend on it. And because one of them, he could drive, he was fine, but just every once in a while he'd lose his way, and so that way she knew where he was if she had to go get him. And so that's been very helpful for just making sure they're in the right place.
So when we're talking about phones, what kind of phones do you think are like would you recommend? I know that I see some of these magazine ads where they have like a special phone just for seniors where it has like giant push buttons, and I suppose if they're not comfortable with touchscreens and that sort of thing, that can be useful. I got my mom an iPhone SE or something like that a while ago, and that she's still using. She has some trouble with it. You can make the text on it bigger, which she needed, but I'm constantly having to fix stuff on the phone because she accidentally moves things or deletes things, or she clicks on malware and it installs profiles in the phone. That was a rough afternoon. Yes, I had to clean that up. So, I mean, would it be better to just get a what they call a feature phone, a non-smartphone, for some folks?
Well, I have had a couple of people that have had the jitterbugs and with the big numbers and on it and stuff like that in a very small address book. There were a couple that liked it. I've had several that say, I don't like this, and they ended up with an iPhone and just used, took everything off the home screen except a couple things they used and made the print larger. But you do have to have somebody that can help them with that. The iPhone is much simpler, I think, than the Androids in terms of the use of my clients. The ones who have an Android, it takes longer to show them, for them to remember where things are, than it is on an iPhone. And I don't know why that is, but it does seem to be simpler. And so that's my perspective, is that I've had mixed reviews on the jitterbugs or those feature phones, because they really can't text on them. They're not really meant for that.
They're just meant for calling, right?
Right.
Being able to
call.
And
with big numbers so they can see them.
And some people are happy with that. I think the iPhone in the walled garden is probably the best for seniors, because there's a lot less fooling around. The Androids, I've found, there's too many options. And with people who don't know what they're doing to begin with, that's way too much confusion for folks.
Right.
So at least the iPhone is a little bit more controlled.
And standardized.
Yes,
Yep.
and smaller
it looks the same.
and smaller for seniors is not always better.
Yeah.
Because they need, my husband needs the eyesight stuff, because at his, we're younger on the senior side, but he needs to have all of the text blown up if he doesn't want to have to go find his glasses.
So does mine. Yeah.
So one thing that I've been thinking about doing for my mom is I'm a techie sort of guy. So I was thinking, what if I got this Jamf Now service? Now, Jamf Now is a particular package from a company called Jamf, JAMF.com, and it's their main product is designed for businesses to manage company issued phones, and so the IT department can remotely update and install and put profiles on it and all kinds of stuff, monitor things on company issued phones. And so they offer a package that's designed for, say, families that would be for less expensive. But it lets you, it's called mobile device management, and it lets you, I looked into it quickly. It seems a bit techie. So it's not
for the average person.
It's not really, I mean, if I'd spent some time digging through it, it might have been a little better. And I might go back in to take a look at it. It may not be that bad. And even Apple has something like Apple Configurator and the tool and some tools like that. But it may be a way to kind of manage, especially if you don't live nearby this person you're trying to help, to remotely manage their iPhone, their iPad, and I'm sure that there are versions of this for Android as well, of course. So that's something to think about if you have a techie bent to you, and if you're listening to this show, you probably do. So it's something to think about. And then of course there's video calling. That's always fun, especially if you got, want to show the grandkids to grandma and granddad, they would like to see the kids on FaceTime or Skype or whatever. Any particular preferences? Like what I've liked to do sometimes is I have a camera, a Logitech webcam, and I put it up on my TV, and I have an Apple TV connected to it, and I'd set up FaceTime on my phone or tablet, and I AirPlay it to the TV so that all the kids can kind of stand in front of the TV and and grandma and granddad could watch them. I haven't done this in a while, I know, Pat, but it's something we could do.
It's a good idea.
It's a good idea. We used to do this, if you remember. And,
yes, I do.
And the kids could stand in front of the TV, and instead of all crowding around a little phone, and everybody can see everybody. So that's something I think would be fun to do if you airplaying your FaceTime calls or Skype calls to the big TV through an Apple TV. There's probably other ways to do this with Chromecast and Fire TV. I'm not familiar with those. But
and if you've got an iPad,
Mhm.
you can set it on the table, and everybody can be behind the table and see pretty well.
Right.
It's much better than just the phone in terms of being able to get to people.
Yes, exactly.
And I know I've spoken about it on this podcast before about GrandPad, which is
yes, you did.
Which is from Consumer Cellular. It's for people who really aren't techie or want to keep themselves. It looks like an even more walled garden. I think it's good for seniors who have very little, technology ability, but they can still see their grandkids and they can stay within a closed environment.
Is it using FaceTime or is it using Skype?
I've looked at it and it almost looks like it's an app that's on the phone of the family or on the iPads of the the devices of the family, but the senior has a fixed
dedicated machine
tablet that can only do, I think, email, audio, video, and probably limited web browsing. That's what it looks like, and it's all through Consumer Cellular.
It looks like it's a proprietary video chat, like it's built in.
So they've got their own app.
Yeah,
that's
right. But it keeps the senior from going, calling anybody or going outside the wall.
Between Skype and FaceTime, I found that it's much easier for my clients that have FaceTime than it is for Skype.
Yeah.
But in any case, on all of them, I always suggest that both sides reboot the device before they get on and try.
Right.
Because that's usually the first thing that happens is one of the devices can't hear or talk or something.
Yeah,
but
we don't know anything about that here on SQPN, where all of our podcasts are
no,
over
we
Skype.
Don't.
We're constantly restarting our calls. That's a good point. I was gonna add some other thought, but I want to move on to talk about home security systems for folks. I found a pretty good article from Senior Living Magazine that talks about the things you want to think about. And I'll link to it in the show notes about, if you're going to get a security system for a senior. And some of the things to think about are, do you get self-installed or professional install? One's cheaper, one is more likely to work right out of the box and be easier to set up, frankly, if you have a professional do it. You can also get monitored or unmonitored. Monitored means as a professional call center that receives any alerts and can respond and call 911 or call a contact number or that sort of thing. If it's unmonitored, you're basically monitoring yourself or either the remote relative or the person with the system themselves. So they're monitored is, of course, more expensive. Unmonitored is, a little more, less of a safety net. There's not someone necessarily there 24/7 to answer. And then you have to think about things like connectivity. How does the system connect? There are three basic ways: Wi-Fi over your router. Do they have a Wi-Fi? Does this person have Wi-Fi in their home? Over cellular, which is expensive, but not dependent on any other system except for the cellular system, or a landline, which seniors are probably more likely to still have than younger folks, I guess. But that's the most basic and standard reliable one these days, unless, God forbid, a criminal cuts the phone lines. But, if they're going to cut the phone lines, they'll cut the power too. I mean, that at some point you got to, think of the likelihood of things. Then you got to think about things like how many sensors or what kinds of sensors. Window and door sensors, obviously. How many windows do you have? How many doors? They have low temperature sensors in case the temperature drops too low in the house, which is maybe a good idea especially if they live in a cold weather environment like the New England or the Upper Midwest, where if it gets too cold in the house, and it endangers their life. smoke and fire detectors, or heat, and smoke. And then flooding detectors is another good one, in case you have overflowing tubs or a broken pipe or that sort of thing, which they, especially if they have a basement that they don't go into a lot, a lot of damage can get caused if they don't notice it in time. And then some security systems can have inside cameras. We talked about that. Outside cameras. Some can have a video doorbell, which could be a video doorbell. To kind of stop on that one, I think might be a good idea if they have the ability to, and if they get comfortable with it. And this is a key to all this technology, is helping them to become comfortable with it. And if they are comfortable with like a Ring doorbell or something, to be able to answer the door when someone comes to the door without opening it, because that is safer. I do that myself.
Right.
So
me too.
Yeah. So you have Ring, you have the Google doorbell, the Nest doorbell. How quickly does the Nest doorbell answer, Pat? Is it a quick answer?
Well, it's always on, and it uses your doorbell, so yeah, it's a. I found it to be fairly good that way. I don't typically answer it.
Right.
I'm not home during the day to answer it usually.
Right.
But, it's a continuous recording. So if you've got any questions or problems, I can tap into at any point from wherever I am and see who's there. And I could answer to them. I am an introvert. I just don't tend to talk to them. I just let them go away.
I have managed to get rid of a few political canvassers that way, I hate to say. But I found with the Ring, at least the Ring I have, if you have a wired Ring, it's literally wired into the power system. I understand it's a lot faster, but mine is a battery powered one, and it's not
lag.
It's not fast at picking up. Sometimes, I say, answer the I tell it to the Echo here, the Echo Show, Echo, answer the doorbell, or, who's at the door, or whatever the word is I want to say. And it will take time. It's like, connecting to the Ring. And meanwhile, they're standing out there, and I'm like sitting here, and finally it comes up, but sometimes it takes a bit, and I wish it were a little quicker. So I wonder if the Google one would be a little faster than that. But
well, mine's on Wi-Fi also, so I can't really speak for the difference there.
I have the wired Ring one.
Is it any faster?
And it's pretty fast.
Good.
It's pretty instantaneous. The only thing about that I find with the Ring video doorbell is you really have to make sure you have your field of vision or your motion field in a good place, because I have a flag that stands over my front door.
Right.
And if the wind is just right, I've had to learn how to really narrow that field down so we don't get the shadow of the flag on about 9 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden all I'm getting is diling, diling, diling all the time.
Ring has a new feature in the app for that, where you can turn on person detection for the doorbell.
Okay. So you might want to just come out this week. Was that part of the stuff that came out this week?
No, but it was in recent weeks, like within the last month, maybe. But that has cut down on false rings for me a lot, because mine faces a street, and every time a car would drive by, it would ring. But this is
Nest does have the person detection or package detection too. It can say package delivered or package picked up.
Wow, that's good.
Or person at the door, or then you can turn on and off the sound and motion detection.
Oh wow!
Other than that too,
that sounds better than the Ring, frankly.
Yeah, actually, yeah. But does it have cat detection?
I don't think a cat would register as a person. I think it would just show motion. Well, and if you can turn the notification for motion on or off, it's always detecting it. But you can at that point say, don't tell me about those. You can look back and see what was happening. But
I have the Ring cameras for the cover of the driveway in the backyard, and they're constantly going off as squirrels run back and forth. And
well, you want Randy to come up and get those squirrels?
Yes, my father-in-law is a noted great squirrel hunter of Texas. Well, that and the skunk that I see running around in the middle of the night. That's actually, It's kind of fun to see the wildlife, has been recorded. I have it on Do Not Disturb at night, so it doesn't ring and wake me up. But it's fun to go back and review the videos with the kids and see all the animals that live in our neighborhood. So back off the tangent. So how about for entertainment, for reading? What do you suggest? Do Kindles have a large print? You can pretty much expand.
You can enlarge that type real big.
Yeah, I was thinking. I sometimes do that unintentionally, but a Kindle might be, if they like to read books, that might be a nice way. And then you can help them. You can buy them books, and for them if they're not comfortable going on Amazon and buying them for themselves, you could remotely load books to their Kindle and that sort of thing. So there's that,
and that's less expensive than a tablet. Other tablets.
That's right.
So that would be a help. But if you've already had another tablet, then yes, the Kindle app and all of the apps you can enlarge those huge.
Yeah. How about for for TV? Because frankly, I find a lot the 7 or 8 remotes I have confusing sometimes. Are there good all-in-one remotes controls that you'd recommend that you think would be good for folks who are older and not comfortable with technology?
The Harmony Hub.
Yeah, we have the older Harmony, and it was really good when we first set it up. Now it's about 4 years old, I think, or something. So any new devices are not necessarily noticed or connectable through it. Mm-hmm. But all of our devices are pretty old too. But yeah, the Harmony's been real good. But these days, if people are going away and cutting the cord, then the Harmony almost becomes obsolete because you've got your Apple TV controller or you've got your Roku controller, and those are pretty simple devices for my older folks to use.
Right.
And TV has just way too many options. The cable box and the satellite box and all that. They're much more confused by that than they are a Roku or an Apple TV controller.
I still find the Harmony useful, though, because most people would have maybe an Apple TV or a Roku, but they'd also have their DVD player. So if you can put everything through one hub, plus if you get somebody who knows what they're doing, Aloysius will also control it. So I walk into a room and say, Aloysius, turn on the television. Bang. It goes on, everything goes.
Right.
Good. I haven't seen that version of the Harmony. That's ours is about at the end of its livelihood, so we may have to replace it.
I have 2 of them. I have one downstairs and one upstairs, and it can be a little confusing if you have 2. You just got to remember how to name them. But
right.
That's the Harmony Hub.
Yes,
I'll have a link in the show notes to that too. Yeah. And you make a good point, Pat, about the Apple TV or the Roku or the Chromecast as an alternative to cable box or satellite box for TV. It because you can kind of package things together. They might, you get them Apple TV and a Hulu subscription or something like that, and you just show them you show them once how to get to it, and they're in there and they can access the stuff. I don't know if that. I kind of wonder at this point, are people more likely to still, like, even older folks now? Cable's been around for 40 years. I mean, it may not be that far advanced for our seniors to, it's confusing. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I have a lot of people that when I come over, can you help me? I got it off of the DVD player and I can't get it back on. Right. Or, and they've got 4 or 5 remotes and they don't know what to do with them.
Okay.
So I find that, again, the people that I have that have cut the cord and just have one of those devices, of the 2, Roku and the Apple TV, are much easier to use than the Chromecast.
Okay, interesting.
So,
all right, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's a good point. It's the remotes that really is the confusion of all the interconnected things, and
yes,
and the TV that's got its different inputs. If it's got one input that it uses, then you don't have to worry about that if it's got the one thing. But that would assume
they're streaming and not doing DVD.
Right. What do you think about the usefulness of things like smart lights or smart home lights, like the Philips Hue and that sort of thing, for older folks, especially if you get, say, the Lutron cassettas, which is not the bulbs, but you replace the light switches themselves, so they can still turn them on and off manually. But then you can also put in things like motion detectors, and you can set up automations to turn things on and off on a schedule. What do you think of that as a utility for older folks? Do you think that would be at all helpful?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the lights would confuse them. I would rather put one of those smart plugs in and allow them to say to a device, turn on the light, or turn off the light. I think that might be more useful. I might be wrong, but I know what all those smart lights can do, and I've chosen not to even bother. Because I still want to have some control over my lighting system.
Right.
I have one client that got some of the smart lights, and it was a novelty for him, and then he basically stopped using them.
Okay. Interesting. So, yeah, if anyone out there has found a use for them, I'd be curious to hear, what the use was for you and how it worked for you or your senior that in your life. That's what we're really wondering about. I have smart lights all over my house, so it's become part of my life, and my wife has surrendered to the inevitability of the smart home.
Right. Now, back to the entertainment thing you were talking about, entertainment. These smart assistants from a lot of my clients have become a real big part of entertainment for them, to be able to play music with them, to be able to ask the time, the weather, all sorts of things. Even people that I did not think were very techie. I have a sister-in-law that basically up until recently, did not have a smartphone. But after my brother passed, she took over the household. And now she mentioned the other day, oh, yes, Alexa and I have wonderful conversations. And, and I asked her to play this music and that. And she was the last person I would have expected.
Interesting.
To really enjoy the feeling that somebody else is listening and is there.
No, the last person I expect to enjoy having an Amazon Echo would be my father-in-law, Randy. That's the last person.
Exactly. Well, he will talk to the thermostat when he walks by, and I can see what he said to it. It's not something that I speak to, because if I speak out loud, it confuses him because of his hearing issues.
Oh, right.
So I don't do it unless he's out of the house. And then I do have a couple of smart devices that I'll play with.
Yep.
But I can't use them because it affects his hearing.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, like the idea of having an Alexa or...
Make sure she's off.
I misspoke. I was waiting for it to fire off and start talking to me here in the office.
Aloysius, I'm sorry. I like that better.
Well, yeah. Aloysius comes from a Saturday Night Live skit where they had Echo for seniors. It was very funny. And, yeah. But anyway, the usefulness of it for the music, and if they can get comfortable talking to the lady in the box, then they can be really helpful for them, because my kids are so comfortable talking to it, where they'll ask for it to play music, they'll ask it questions, they'll ask it trivia, ask it to look up things for them. So it actually really it can become very helpful. And you can even have it if you have the one with the screen, you can have it look up recipes, play videos, that sort of stuff. So it's an interesting idea, especially if they live alone. It can be nice to have even a machine that talks back to you a little bit.
Well, the first one I had was about 4 years ago. Somebody got her mom one, and at first she said, I don't think I'm going to like it. And the next time I came over, she was telling me how much she enjoyed it.
Excellent.
And because it's, again, that kind of like having a dog around. It's just something else in the house that is there, and you feel like you're not alone.
Right. Excellent. So that's a lot of great conversation, a lot of great information for folks. If you, the listener, have any additional insight, if you've done this for seniors in your life, or if you have additional questions, things that have come up, we'd love to hear from you. You can always contact us. You can send an email to technology@sqpn.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we love to hear from listeners who have topic suggestions. Many of our topics have come from listener questions, and so we're happy to accommodate those and include those as we can. So let us know what you think of this topic, or if you have any others. So let's move on to our second topic today, and this one, kind of interesting. I encountered this. Here's one of my guilty confessions. I read Ask Amy, the advice column in the paper every day. It's a thing. I don't know. I'm so often simultaneously horrified and amused by both the questions and the advice. But it's a little bit of slice of life in America today. But this particular one is a tech question. And I thought I'd bring it to you all, especially to you, Joanne, who are very much a genealogy expert. And so this concerns genealogy. So
we'll give it a shot.
So here's the question that came in, and this was the reader asked. A relative contacted me on an ancestry site after learning that we were cousins, most likely first cousins once removed. We had no knowledge of each other and excitedly exchanged information about ourselves and our families. Eventually, though, she wanted specific names of male relatives who presumably might be her birth father. She was not adopted and was raised by two parents. Presumably, the father who raised her didn't know he was not her biological father. At that point, I explained that I did not feel comfortable giving names and asked if she could speak with her mother about this, however uncomfortable that might be. I truly felt I'd gone as far as I could, ethically speaking. My cousins, one of whom might be her biological father, are married, and I had their lives to consider in this genetic search process. After declining to provide names of family members, I never heard from her again, which grieves me. Now I'm left wondering, in this age of DNA discoveries, what are our obligations to family members, whether they be known or hidden? What is ethical here? And so that's her question. And presumably there was a DNA swab, one of those, DNA and me, 23andMe things or something involved here. That's usually what's involved. And beyond the DNA question, just there's I've experienced a little bit of this myself, where not the same degree, but where I have a family tree up on Ancestry.com. I got contacted by somebody who thought she was related to my mom and wanted to contact her, and
you felt a little weird.
Well, charitably, I would say she was excited and an extrovert. If I wanted to be a little less charitable, I'd say she was very pushy. And my mom, being a senior, was a little wary and was happy to, send a message to her. But this woman said, "Oh, I'm coming to Boston. I want to get together and meet and all this other stuff." And my mother was like, "I'm not sure I'm comfortable with all that," and didn't want to talk to her. And I was kind of stuck in the middle, relaying messages and trying to figure out what the best way to deal with it. But in general, what do you think as these connections are going to, especially with DNA, start coming more and more? What are our obligations if we're putting this information out there for people who have not asked to be exposed to, their DNA exposed on the internet? What do you think? Joanne, I'll start with you.
Yeah, this is tricky because those of us in genealogy get really excited when we find living people because we're dealing with dead people for so long. If we actually find living people, then yes, we want to speak with them. I've been contacted by a number of people who are in my tree remotely, and I have contacted people. Some people don't want to talk. Some people do. I'm cautious when I talk to folks, and I have tried to get together with a few, but my work schedule hasn't allowed me to yet. But I stay in contact with them. By the way, the first cousin once removed, if you don't know what it means that your parents are first cousins with their parents.
Right.
That's how the once removed goes. Okay, so
at
least at least it's a closer relative than a third or fifth cousin when you have to try to figure out which great grandparents, where do you come from?
Right.
I think when you take these DNA tests, you have to know that you're opening yourself up for this type of communication. And you have to decide how you're going to deal with it. I think a lot of people went into it just to find their ethnicity, and then that's it. They don't understand that there's a second part to it. They want to find out how much percentage English or Portuguese or French, and then that's it. There's a whole other realm. People are finding half sisters, half brothers, their real parents, and it can get really sticky.
Yeah.
So my rule of thumb ethically has been, you can ask me any questions about my immediate family because they're dead. I'm the keeper of that information. If I choose to share it with you and I have some of it out there, I will share it with you. But I also have my cousin's DNA out there. I answer no questions on hers because she has dementia and I can't ask her, is it okay?
Right.
I have it out there only because I'm researching her own family. So you got to be really careful when people come a calling, and they're going to, because if they're serious, they're going to respect you.
Right.
If they're not, and they're looking like that, the person in this column was definitely looking for the biological father. You've got to be careful. If that man does not know he's a biological father,
Right.
now you're about ready to upset a lot of lives.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people really think that through. They're just thinking, oh, me, what's my heritage? You got to remember there's a whole bunch of other people in the DNA pool with you.
Right.
And because you're only getting so much DNA. I mean, you get half from your parents, a quarter from your grandparents. So there's a lot of other people in that pool with you.
Yep.
Some of them know they're there and some don't.
I have a situation that I know personally that they found a half-sister, and the father did not know that he had a child. He had been dating this person when he was in the service, and she never told him. He got married, had a bunch of kids later on, and then he died. So the problem is that people say, uh-oh, mom doesn't know. Should we tell her? And they decided no.
Yeah.
They would not tell her because even though it was before they got married, they didn't feel like it was right to upset her with the thought that he had been with another woman 60 years before.
Right.
Or whatever it was. It was quite a long time ago. And yet the cousins, or the half brother and half sister, were so glad to get to meet each other, but they just did not inform mom.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I think that's okay. I
think
really
that
do.
worked.
Because, the adage, the truth will set you free, can sometimes bind up other people.
Right.
And you really don't want to do that. You don't. I mean, I know the way my family, I know the skeletons, a lot of them in my family tree's closet, and I have to expect some things to come out popping at some point.
Right.
But I'm ready for it, and if they don't, okay, fine. But I kind of think there's going to be some popping, but other people don't expect that. I mean, anybody who watches Long Lost Family,
right,
gets the idea that there are people looking. And I think I think it's good that these records are being opened up for people, but there has to be some sort of ethical or moral decision making here. You can find out, good, John Smith is your real biological father. Do you really want to tell Mrs. Smith about that?
That could be very cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can be.
It can be more than just, the mom or, dad has a long lost daughter. Usually it's not mom who has the long lost child. That's easier to keep track of. But
adoption, I do know one that was the case.
That could be. That's true.
Right.
But there's also, as Jimmy Akin and I discussed on the other podcast we do, Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, the case of the Golden State Killer in California was broken after 30 years by this very same sort of DNA testings. People who were related to him had been doing like 23andMe or some other sort of ethnic DNA testing, and they compared the DNA they had to the DNA in the system and found close relatives and were able to use that to pinpoint. And I think that's a good thing. I'm all for that.
Oh yeah,
but you have to be aware that this sort of family skeletons
intrigue
can come out. Yeah, it can,
right.
You could be contacted by law enforcement looking for a relative of yours. So it's interesting.
And there's a lot of sleuthing that goes into that. It's not just all of a sudden bing,
right,
your DNA comes up on the roulette wheel.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sleuthing that goes into that. But they used a site called GEDmatch.
Right.
And in GEDmatch now, you have to opt in to that. if you want your DNA to be used in that manner. I've opted in. I have not opted in my cousin.
Right.
Again, because I can't ask her that question. Do you mind them doing that?
Yeah.
But I've opted in. But I think I'm getting out of GEDmatch anyway because they sold it. They finally sold it to a bigger company, and I don't know what they're going to do with it. So I might just pull the DNA out.
Interesting.
And you can do that.
Yeah.
You're in control of your DNA, where it goes, what company you use, who you talk to about it, where you put it. If you put it out there, you got to know it's going to go. And if you don't want it out there.
Is that protected by law or by a company policy?
I did my DNA through Family Tree DNA, and I chose them because they, at the time and still, are not, they're very closed as far as who they allow the DNA. They don't really allow anybody else to get at it. Ancestry, 23andMe, when I was looking at them, they were a little bit more loose with we could use these results for these things. No, I don't want you using it for that.
Right.
But that's policy, not law.
Right.
Yeah.
There is no law yet.
It would be interesting.
So you have to know the company.
That may be something that needs to happen at some point is a genetic privacy law to protect people in general in many different ways, in both in health and medical insurance and medical factor, that sort of stuff. Very interesting. That might be an area we need to cover more closely in the future. So that's very good. Yeah. And so thank you for your expertise, both of you, and your experience. I think that helps. I don't think people should be scared away from DNA testing necessarily, but you should go into it with your eyes wide open and prepared for such things, knowing that. So
you never know.
You never know. You never know. So I think we should move on to our picks of the week. And so, Pat, I'll let you go first. What is your pick of the week this week?
Well, it's pretty low tech for a high tech item, but it's a piece of glass that they call tempered glass that you insert over your regular iPhone or Samsung or whatever you have. And if something happens, then it gets the first hit or scratch and protects your device underneath it. And I have had one that did shatter, and I got a replacement for it, and it protected my phone. And so I got a replacement for it. And now, after a year and a half, that replacement now has a slight scratch. When you look at it, you think it's broken, and it's not. It's just a scratch, but it's protected my phone again. And so they're pretty inexpensive. I am a little bit hesitant to spend my time putting one on only to have it shatter in my hands. So I typically take it to a place like Best Buy or you mentioned Zag earlier, that they can install it for me. And if they choose to have somebody inexperienced and it shatters, I'm not out the cost of another screen.
Right. They're more
but
liable for
it has really helped me. And I choose the clear one. I don't get the non-glare.
Right.
Because I want to be able to see much better than the glare ones have.
The glare will dim the screen. It'll make it less bright.
And make it a little more a pattern, and I don't like that.
Yeah, so the tempered glass, it's the idea is because it's tempered glass, it won't shatter, and it's harder. So it's not that you can throw your phone down to the pavement, but it's just one more level of protection, and it's better than the plastic because the plastic is not. Plastic is really like key scratch protection. It's not really impact protection.
Correct.
And like you mentioned, all the best ones, like the name brand ones, like from Zag and others, will have warranties. So if your screen gets broken while their protector is on it and been applied correctly, they'll pay for the cost of replacement of the glass of the display on your phone, which I think is great. Just coincidentally, Pat, I was telling you before, I was replacing the glass on mine today. I picked up one on Amazon. At Trianium was the brand name. I just picked the one that had some good reviews. I wasn't particularly discerning in it, but it comes with 3 glass pieces in it, and it comes with a kit and an alignment tool. And I had to take it off after the first application because, of course, there's always that one little piece of dust. But here's a little tip. I took my flashlight and shined it sideways across the screen so I could see any little bit of dust. So it comes with little stickers to pull up any dust. And after the second time, it was fine. But that's a good pick. Yeah.
And for those of you who want somebody else to do it, if you can find a Zag kiosk, the one good thing about Zag is that when you buy their protector, if you go back to them with it and it's cracked, the replacement is like $8.
Oh, wow.
So you don't have to buy another protector. They warranty the protector for the life of the phone that you have, as long as you have that phone. So that's not a bad idea if you have a kiosk near you.
And as I say, Best Buy does do an application of the ones you buy through them. There is a charge for it, but I am more than willing to pay that charge.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right, so Joanne, what's your pick this week?
I'm going to go back to episode 20 and pick the same thing again, the Apple Watch.
Okay.
Series 5. I'm a big cellular person, though. It's not that, especially for seniors. Sometimes if you don't have your phone and you're out of range of your phone, if you have the cellular Apple Watch, it will continue to do everything and accept calls and the GPS. And I think I'm a big promoter of the Apple Watch because of that, because of the fall protection especially. I'm going to be replacing mine shortly. I have a Series 3.
Yeah. I'm
going to go up to the 5. Basically because I'm getting old, and if I fall, I want it to be able to call people. But for those who want to compare and contrast to like Lifeline, do that. Take a look at how much the watch costs with the cellular and the Lifeline. Do the comparison. Have your kids do the comparison. You might find the Apple Watch in the long run is your better buy.
Right.
Really?
For better protection.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so I'm going out after the Apple Watch again.
So thank you for that. My pick this week is an iOS game. I haven't picked an iOS app in a while, and so I'm going to this one. It's an update, a newer version, but enough of an update for it to get a new name, called Spell Tower Plus by the guy who developed this name is Zach Gage. He's done a bunch of fun little game apps, well designed, nicely designed apps that are game apps for iPhone and iPad. This one, it's a word game, so it's sort of like word search, like kids get, and you have to find the words in the jumbled letters. But it takes it to another level. There's several variations. One is where you have a letter in the middle and all the letters around it, and you have to make one word, the best word possible, that incorporates that center letter using as many of the other letters as possible. He has another one called Tower, where you have a whole stack of letters on the screen, and as you complete words, it drops down, and you over time, as you run out of letters, it gets harder and harder, and you can't repeat the words. You can only use a word once at a time, and it gives you different point values, and some letters like X or Z or Q will clear a whole line at once if you use it, and that sort of thing. And then there's another one called Puzzle, which every time you take a turn, it increments the tower up, so it adds a row at the bottom, and you have to kind of keep the columns from reaching the top, or you lose the game. And so there's a variation that's infinitely playable. It's got great replayability. My wife has been playing the previous one for years now, since it first came out. She loves that, and it's a lot of fun. So there's this version. There's also one that's timed, so you have to. It's speed. Some people don't like that. They don't like the pressure. They want to relax. They don't want stress. So they have ones that aren't like that, and it works just as well on your iPad as it does on your iPhone. So a really great game. I should probably mention the cost of it. It was cheap. I think it was $5, which is a nice value for a good game that you will play for a long time. And I do want to give an update on a previous pick. I picked the Molecule air filter a couple weeks ago, and I had gotten those for review units. And I have the big Molecule Air, which is the big, like, large, like almost for my house, whole house unit that can do the air for that. But they also sent me the Air Mini, which is a smaller tabletop unit that you can move from room to room. That's good for like a office or a bedroom and that sort of thing. But when it first came out, it was only the Molecule Air you can control with an app, but the Mini you could not until now. They've updated their app, and now you can connect it to the Mini and remote control it from your phone, and it will also give you alerts when the filters need to be changed and that sort of thing. So really nice little feature. I mean, there's not a whole lot of controls. That's pretty much it, but nice little update there. So I think that about does it. Anything else you guys are anything left to talk about here? I don't think.
I think we're finished.
All right. So
I think we're good.
All right. So let's take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Technology, including this time Marshall B., Laura H., Dave D., Catherine O., and Rhea B. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by going to sqpn.com/give. So, if you, what did you think of our discussion? If you have any feedback at all, you can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send us an email to technology@sqpn.com. And of course, I'll have links to everything we discussed and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. If you can, we have a big favor to ask, if you can do so. If you could write a review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from, if you could write a review for the podcast, we greatly appreciate that. And if you could share the podcast with friends, especially ones like this, where someone may really benefit from the information we've shared about helping seniors with technology, we'd greatly appreciate that. Not only does it help the show, but it might help somebody else as well. We really appreciate it. Until next time, Joanne Mercier, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Technology.
Thanks, Dom.
And Pat Scott, thank you as well.
Thanks for having me.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.